He had been invited to a place most people would never see in their lives. A secret laboratory hidden deep underground where, they promised, the future was being created. The invitation spoke of breakthroughs, of experiments that would change humanity forever. He believed them. Why wouldn't he? The men in suits, the polished smiles, the words "you've been chosen." It all seemed too real to be a lie. The sterile white hallway stretched endlessly, the hum of machines echoing through the air. Every door had scanners, every corridor had cameras. He was told it was for security. But when the locks clicked shut behind him, he realized the truth. This wasn't science. It was a trap. And while they thought they could use him as a pawn, they didn't know who they had lured inside. Because he had already decided. If this was a game, he wouldn't be the one losing. The first test looked harmless. A white room, square and simple, with nothing but a glowing panel on the wall. A voice came from a hidden speaker above. Place your hand on the screen. It will measure your response time. He hesitated. Something about the calm, almost friendly tone made his skin crawl. Still, he stepped forward, pressing his palm against the panel. The surface lit up, scanning him in seconds. Suddenly the wall shifted. Metal panels slid down and bright red lights flickered. The voice returned, colder this time. Now run. A hidden hatch opened and out of it came a machine, something like a four-legged drone, armed with a needle that dripped with green liquid. His pulse spiked. They weren't testing reflexes. They were testing survival. He sprinted. The room twisted like a maze, doors sliding open just as the drone lunged at him. He could hear the hiss of the needle as it jabbed against metal walls, inches from his skin. He ducked, rolled, jumped, every instinct honed from years of discipline and training guiding him. By the time he burst out into the next corridor, his shirt was drenched with sweat. The door slammed behind him, locking the machine inside. From the speaker, faint applause echoed. Well done, the voice said mockingly. You may proceed. In the next chamber there were no drones. Just silence. Rows of glass tanks lined the walls, each one filled with murky liquid. And inside, people. He froze. They were suspended, motionless, wires running from their skulls into the walls. Some were breathing. Others weren't. The sight made his stomach tighten. Whoever had brought him here wasn't just experimenting. They were collecting. A low hiss caught his attention. One of the tanks bubbled, and the pale eyes of a figure inside snapped open. The person pressed against the glass, mouth moving, screaming, but no sound came out. He stepped closer. And that's when he saw the note taped to the tank's edge. A single line scrawled in messy handwriting. This could be you. He turned, fury building in his chest. They thought they could scare him, break him down with theatrics. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The intercom clicked again. Proceed to the next test. This time he didn't obey immediately. Instead, he examined the room carefully. Cameras in the corners. Sensors in the floor. Every movement monitored. But when he looked closer at the wiring behind one of the tanks, he noticed something. A loose connection. A vulnerability. They weren't invincible. He smiled just faintly. Revenge would come. Not now, not yet, but it would come. The following hours blurred together in a storm of challenges. A chamber with collapsing floors, forcing him to leap across gaps while sparks rained from above. A puzzle room where the wrong answer triggered bursts of scalding steam. An endless hallway lined with mirrors, each reflection whispering lies into his ears. It wasn't science. It wasn't progress. It was psychological warfare. They wanted him broken. But instead, with each test he grew sharper, stronger, more determined. Every camera watching him wasn't just recording, it was giving him information. Every machine sent to chase him wasn't just a threat, it was a weakness to be studied. They thought he was a rat in their maze. But he was studying the maze itself. Finally, after what felt like days, he was led into a larger chamber. A control room. On the other side of a thick pane of glass, figures in lab coats stared at him. They were safe, hidden, untouchable behind their barrier. The intercom clicked once more. You've done well, the voice said. It was smoother now, almost amused. But you must understand, you're not here because you're special. You're here because you're useful. Every reaction you've had, every move you've made has been recorded. You're just data. He stood still, his jaw tightening. And when we're finished with you, the voice continued, you'll join the others. In the tanks. Suspended. Forever. The scientists turned, whispering among themselves. Some laughed. One raised a glass as if toasting his future imprisonment. But they didn't see the way his eyes burned. They didn't see the way his fists clenched, not with fear, but with promise. Because what they thought was the end. was only the beginning. The words, "You'll join the others," echoed in his skull like a cruel joke. They thought he was already broken. They thought fear had stripped him of strength. But fear wasn't what fueled him now. It was rage. He scanned the chamber quickly. Cameras in every corner, 2 guards posted by the steel doors, and the scientists smirking behind bulletproof glass. It looked impossible. But he had noticed something. Nothing was flawless here. The maze had glitches. And he had been memorizing them. The next test began almost immediately. The guards forced him down another hallway, into a chamber that resembled an operating theater. A surgical table sat in the center, straps hanging loose. Monitors on the wall displayed brain scans, heartbeats, coded files. "Lie down," one of the guards barked. He didn't move. His jaw flexed. For a split second, tension filled the air. Then, as if surrendering, he climbed onto the table. The straps tightened around his wrists and ankles. Cold metal. Heavy. The scientists' voices filled the intercom again. "This is where your contribution begins. Don't worry, you won't feel much once the process starts." A robotic arm lowered from above, needle glinting. That was their mistake. The moment the needle hovered inches from his skin, he yanked hard. The strap gave way. He had tested it earlier, subtly loosening the bolt when no one was looking. In a burst of motion, he tore free, ripping the robotic arm from its base and swinging it like a weapon. Sparks erupted. The guards rushed forward. Too late. The first went down with a crack to the head. The second lunged, but a swift jab with the broken metal rod sent him sprawling. Chaos filled the chamber. Alarms blared. Behind the glass, the scientists scrambled, shouting orders, slamming buttons. But he was already moving. He grabbed the guard's weapon and stormed toward the nearest control panel. His fist smashed through it, sparks exploding. The doors hissed open. Freedom. Now the maze was different. No more waiting. No more running their games. He turned their trap into his battlefield. Every drone that rolled toward him became scrap metal under his fists or stolen weapons in his hands. Every locked door became another weak point to smash. The facility's labyrinth, once a prison, was now his hunting ground. And with every step he left a message behind. Broken cameras, smashed panels, trails of failure. They wanted data. He was giving them chaos. He found rooms the scientists never meant him to see. One chamber held shelves of files, black binders stamped with codes. He tore them open and his blood ran cold. Names. Faces. Hundreds of them. People who had volunteered, or been lured just like him. None of them ever returned. Another room held recording equipment. Screens replayed every test he had survived, every moment they had mocked him. Except now he wasn't the rat. He was the predator. Finally he reached a heavy reinforced door. Beyond it he could hear muffled voices, frantic, panicked. The scientist. He gripped the stolen weapon tighter, forcing the lock open with brute strength and sparks of fury. The door groaned and swung wide. Inside, the men in lab coats froze. Their arrogance vanished. The one who had spoken through the intercom stepped back, face pale. You weren't supposed to?" The words died in his throat as the barrel of the weapon leveled at him. For the first time, silence filled the room. No intercom. No mocking voice. Just the heavy breathing of people who realized their game was over. But he didn't fire. Not yet. Revenge wasn't about a single bullet. He glanced at the control boards, at the endless switches, levers and monitors controlling the facility. And a cruel idea sparked in his mind. They had built this maze to test and humiliate others. To trap them, to feed on their fear. Now it was their turn. With steady hands he locked the steel doors from the inside. The scientists were trapped. He smashed the comm system so no one outside could hear their cries. Then one by one he activated the test they had designed. Only this time the targets weren't innocent captives. Sirens howled. Floors shifted. Steam hissed. The mirrored hallways lit up with blinding light. The scientists screamed as their own creation swallowed them. Through the glass wall he watched them scatter in terror. They had never run the maze. They had never faced their own monsters. And now every trap, every machine, every cruel game was aimed at them. For once they were the rats. And he was the one watching. He leaned back, breathing steady. He didn't smile, didn't cheer. Revenge wasn't joy. It was justice. They had taken lives, ruined futures, mocked suffering. Now they would feel it all, the fear, the despair, the helplessness. And as the alarms echoed through the laboratory, he walked away. He knew the facility would eat itself alive before the night was over. But his story wasn't finished yet. Because escape was only part of revenge. The world outside needed to know what had happened here, and he would make sure it did. Smoke and alarms filled the halls as he made his way toward the exit. The facility shook like it was collapsing from within. Systems overloading, traps colliding, the maze consuming its own creators. But escape was not enough. Revenge wasn't complete until the truth was exposed. He found the central server room, rows of glowing towers humming with secrets. Thousands of files, videos, research logs. Proof of every victim. The keyboard waited. He wasn't a hacker, but he didn't need to be. He smashed in commands, forcing the system to upload everything to public networks. Hidden cameras, test footage, experiments, all of it went live. For the first time, the world saw the truth. Behind him, footsteps echoed. One scientist had survived the chaos, face twisted with rage and desperation. "You don't understand," the man screamed. "This research was going to change the world. Sacrifices had to be made." The survivor raised a pistol, hand shaking. But the main character didn't flinch. His eyes were steady. "You sacrificed the wrong people." A sudden surge of power knocked the lights out. Sparks rained from the ceiling. When they lit up again, the scientist lay unconscious, crushed under falling debris. Justice delivered itself. Finally, he reached the blast doors at the edge of the facility. With one last push, they groaned open, flooding him with the cold night air. He stepped outside. Freedom. But behind him, the laboratory burned, alarms screaming into the sky like a dying beast. Inside, the scientists who had mocked him now begged for mercy from their own traps. No rescue would come. The maze of revenge had claimed them all. Standing under the stars, he knew one thing. They had dragged him here as a prisoner. He left as a survivor. And now the whole world knew the truth. There would be no hiding. No more victims. No more games. This wasn't just survival. It was revenge, complete, final, unstoppable.